Hello and welcome back to Hardwiring a Healthier Christmas, and this is the second video in the series, and I would like to start off just by saying thank you to everybody who left me messages or sent me emails or text messages about the first video. This I hope was a bit of a wake-up call for you in terms of finding out what is it that you are really ready to change for. I focused in that video on finding out what it is that you want to do differently this year, this Christmas 2016, that you've been unable to do in Christmas 2015 or any of the Christmases before. This is really powerful because what this does is puts context for all of the information that's going to follow in these videos. And if you take the time to really find out what it is that you want to change for, this can be a massive power, a massive force for getting you unstuck. Because I believe that on some level, if you're watching these videos, then you are stuck. You have been unable to make a change in your life that you want to make on a conscious level, but for whatever reason you've been unable to make that change. Now, if you haven't already seen the first video and completed the exercise that I talk about in there, I'd highly recommend that you pause this video and link back to the first video. The link is in the description at the bottom, and that you take the time, you just hold on getting more information from me until you've actually made the time to find out what it is that you're willing to change for. And once you've found out what that is, once you've completed that exercise, you'll find that getting unstuck becomes a much easier process. Now, what I want to talk about today is food and nutrition. So over Christmas and the New Year, we're obviously tempted with lots of really yummy, delicious, but often quite calorific foods. So there's no point in holding back at this time of the year. This is when we give presents to each other which are food-based. We eat meals that are much bigger and much richer and much more calorific than we're used to at any other time of the year. Now, as you may well know, and anybody who knows me knows how much I love my food, so of course part of Hardwiring a Healthier Christmas for me is not about restriction of food. In fact, quite the opposite. It's all about finding out what it is that your body can cope with, finding out what your body can deal with and process, and treating your body with respect, not overloading it like you may have done in other Christmases gone by, but giving it a treat, giving yourself the rest and the time to recharge from the year just gone by, but also respecting your body as a system and as a unique system which will not run at its best if it's overloaded. So I'm a big fan of using car analogies, as I think they really accurately describe what happens when we refuel our bodies, when we put food in and we expect our bodies to run and to serve us as our cars will over the winter and beyond. So what I equate the Christmas break to for a lot of people is actually taking their bodies to the petrol station, the kitchen, and filling up with A, fuel that their body is not designed to run on, and B, overloading the body with that fuel. Now let's say that you put the wrong fuel into your car. Is putting more of that fuel into the car going to make it run any better? Of course not. once you've realized that you've put the wrong fuel in there, hopefully you've got some kind of insurance, hopefully you've got some way of getting help to change the fuel that's in there, put the right fuel in there and go on your way. Now for me, this is a really great metaphor for what happens over Christmas. So often people are putting the wrong fuel into their body and putting excessive amounts of it in there and wondering why when January comes they've gained weight, they feel stressed and their body is not running as it should be. Now on our website I have a questionnaire which can help you identify what fuel that your body is designed to run on. Now in short, there are 3 different metabolic types. There is a protein type, there is a carbohydrate type, and there is a mixed type. And everybody has one of these types. Now, if you haven't done the test already and you're not clear on what your metabolic type is, please go to my website, www.lawrencefrancis.co.uk. Link is in the description below, and redo the test. It's an online assessment. It takes no more than about 5 minutes. I'm going to just take a couple of minutes to give you a really useful definition of what constitutes a fat, what constitutes a carbohydrate, and what constitutes a protein. Now, a protein is something which is essentially an animal or an animal product. So you can also think of this as something which either had a pair of eyes or came from something with a pair of eyes. And this, by definition, includes birds, fish, animals of all description. And their meat or their flesh is going to be primarily protein. So what is also highly protein based is the products of those animals. So if we think about eggs, if we think about milk, if we think about caviar, these things all come from something with a pair of eyes, and so they are going to be highly protein based. The next is the fats. So if you think about taking a walk around your local supermarket, you will know that there is an aisle where all of the fats live. So that's where you'll encounter your sunflower oil, your olive oil, all those oils that are in bottles and are liquid at room temperature. Fats also live in the fridge as well. So if you think about the area where you might encounter the butter or the lard or the dripping, or especially at this time of year, the goose fat. Now these are typically going to be hard at room temperature. Also included in the hard at room temperature group are things like coconut oil and palm oil. Now it might surprise you, but everything else that's not mentioned in either the animals eyes group or the fat group is actually a carbohydrate. And we typically only think of carbohydrates as being bread or rice, and the fact is that the carbohydrate group is actually much bigger than we might initially think. So everything else, so wine, chocolate, vegetables, fruit, breakfast cereals, anything grain based, these things are all going to be largely carbohydrate. Now this is a very simple definition. Obviously there are going to be some exceptions, there are going to be some things which contain a mixture of all of these, but using that definition as a rule of thumb, you will be right most of the time, and you'll be able to look at a particular item either in the supermarket or on your plate, and you'll be able to identify very quickly, is this mainly protein, is this mainly fat, or is this mainly carbohydrate? So talking to the protein types, and I am a protein type, so I have first-hand experience of the benefits and the drawbacks of being in this group. Now, a couple of things. you will most probably be a grazer. You'll be somebody who likes to snack as you go through the day. So some elements of Christmas are actually going to be quite beneficial for you. So where there is going to be an excess of turkey, an excess of meat, an excess of leftovers around, you will naturally find yourself grazing. You may be eating 4 or 5 times a day over the Christmas period. Now, I would say don't think of this as something you have to fight against. This is something quite normal for a protein type. So this is likely to be something that actually means that you are working, your body is working well, you're balanced, your energy is not going to be up and down. Just as ever, just make sure that where possible you have a source of protein in your snacks and your meals as you go through Christmas. Now, probably the main exception to this grazing mentality is going to be on Christmas Day itself, where you are probably going to be eating one really large meal. Now, in general, protein types don't do particularly well with 2 really large meals during the day as opposed to, say, 4 smaller ones. So really just, a word of caution around what can happen to you if you have a huge meal. It can just completely knock you sideways. I'm smiling to myself as I'm remembering very clearly Christmas a few years ago, where where I had one of the biggest meals of my life, and was basically then going back for more because it was so delicious. The turkey, the ham, all things that are quite good for a protein type, but just eaten at an excessive level. Now, I began to feel very ill almost immediately after this meal, and seeing as it was my turn to do the washing up, I thought, all right, let me go and have a little nap before coming down and doing all the washing up. Now, this nap, this sort of half an hour snooze before doing the washing up, actually turned into a 16-hour sleep, one of the longest sleeps of my life. My body, my systems were so stressed from processing all of this food that all of the other systems went into shutdown, and I just needed to sleep. I just needed to just have a complete shutdown while my body worked with what was basically this assault that had been brought on it by my own hands and by my own knife and fork. So, in short, as a protein type, don't feel that you need to have one massive meal on Christmas Day. You will do much better by having something in the morning, having a protein-based breakfast in the morning, maybe some eggs, some eggs on toast, some salmon, just getting some protein in there earlier on in the day so that you're not hitting the wall later on, and that you don't feel the need to overeat and to overcompensate when Christmas meal finally comes around. One final point for protein types is around alcohol. Now, as you are aware, there's a lot more alcohol around at Christmas. There's a lot more entertaining that goes on when people go around to other people's houses, when people go to parties, they bring a bottle of wine or they bring beer, and this is a pretty typical standard thing that we drink more than we realise, and more than we will at other times of the year. Now, the golden rule for protein types is not to have alcohol on an empty stomach, and wherever possible to actually have a source of protein alongside your alcohol. So if you think about what happens in Spain and in a lot of countries on the continent, where whenever they're having something to drink, there'll be olives, there'll be peanuts, there'll be some kind of snack, there might be cheese, there might be ham. There's something there just to tie up the carbohydrate, not to have that as your sole source of energy, and that will be used much more evenly. You won't get a sugar rush, you won't get a sugar crash, you won't get drunk so quickly, and you will feel better as a result of that. So 3 things for the protein type. First of all, where you find yourself wanting to graze rather than having one big meal over the Christmas period, don't fight that. You will naturally tend to do well with 4 smaller meals per day rather than 2 really large meals per day. Secondly, when it comes to days where you're expecting to eat quite a lot, just try to mitigate this. Try to make sure that you come to those bigger meals, maybe the Christmas lunch, try to come to that without a completely empty stomach so that you're not tempted to eat too much. And then finally, where you're having alcohol, try to mitigate the impact of this on your body by having either a protein source just before you have something to drink, or as I really like to do, just having some small plates, some tapas, some peanuts, maybe some fish, maybe some meats, maybe some cheese, just there with you as you're drinking, just to, again, slow down the absorption of the carbohydrate so that you don't get that sugar rush and the sugar crash. In preparation for the next and final video in the Hardwiring a Healthier Christmas video series, I will invite you to go to my website or to link directly from the description box below through to a stress questionnaire. Now, what this is going to do is tell you whether you are either highly stressed, moderately stressed, or low stressed. So please take 3 minutes, link to the questionnaire from the description box below, or alternatively directly from my website. I'm Lawrence Francis, Hardwiring a Healthier Christmas, and I really look forward to speaking with you next time.